Hello everyone. This is Food is a Conversation Alumni Edition number 20. So we are having a big number today, and we are having a guest dialing in from Cape Town. I'm very excited to have a conversation today. So these conversations are hosted twice a week to introduce ecosystem members who attended any of the educational programs. Hi, Ashley.
Hello.
Hi. I quickly do the intro and then we go on with the conversation. So this conversation happens twice a week, and these to introduce the alumni of the educational programs like the Food Innovation Master Program, the summer schools, what Future Food Institute hosted before, and of course the boot camps, which is a very timely topic right now because we are launching the very first boot camp in a digital format in 2 weeks. So over the past now 10 weeks in this case, I have hosted 19 and today the 20th guest. And this has been a lot of fun. These are very casual conversations. You will hear about their story, how they joined the ecosystem, how was their experience on these educational programs, and how did their life kind of continue after Future Food. And I encourage everyone to please post questions in the chat, and we will make sure that we find time during the conversation to answer them. Otherwise, all of these conversations are posted on IGTV afterwards, and some of the previous ones are to be found on the YouTube channel because Instagram had a lovely change in between. So what else? If you are to Instagram live shy and you don't want to post your question here, you can always direct message us afterwards as well. And I think that's it for now. So the stage is yours. Ashley, please introduce yourself.
Cool. Yeah, so my name's obviously my name's Ashleigh. I live in Cape Town, and I think it's possibly one of the most beautiful places in the world. We often joke about it. Yeah, so I come from a background of food science. So I studied a food science degree, but I like to say that I had a bit of a quarter life crisis and decided to change my direction. So yeah, I think in a nutshell, that's me. So yeah, background, studied food science, sort of like on a different path now, back in South Africa. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So you kind of already mentioned this in the last sentences, but how did you end up in Italy in 2018? And how did you become one of my fellow students and join me on the journey?
Yeah. So I think myself and Murray were probably the youngest people in the program. So we actually joined like straight after we graduated. So we graduated December, and like the January we were in Italy. But yeah, the main motivation for me was that I always felt like I needed to see something more than just like, you know, the little bottom of South Africa. I've always wanted to like live overseas and learn and explore overseas. And yeah, I think as soon as I finished my degree, I was looking for any kind of opportunity to go overseas. So I mostly just spent my time like Googling any kind of masters I could that could get me overseas. And I think I was doing my research and I came across this food innovation program, and I thought, oh my word, this is amazing. First of all, you get to travel around the world and eat and like explore. Like, what else could you want? And yeah, I thought like, you know, you're able to meet all these amazing people, and it's in Italy, one of the most beautiful places as well. So yeah, gave it a chance, and that's kind of like how I ended up there. I think through conversation, like in class one day, I actually found out that Murray and I were actually applying for the same program. We ended up going. So that was really great. I had a little friend. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up in Italy.
It's in the middle of the winter.
Yes.
And so, as you mentioned, we went on a global mission when we were traveling for 60 days to research. So it was not only traveling and eating.
Yes.
and we were assigned to different research topics. And to the audience, you can find everything what we kind of collected and downloaded from that trip on foodshapers.org. So you were part of the team researching the future of food service and food care. So if you can like recall that 60 days, what were the most powerful and like what are your memories, what you always kind of share when someone asks you about the trip?
I think in hindsight, I was actually thinking about it recently. I think I've always been a people's person. And so for me, choosing something food service and food care, like looking back now, it makes so much sense that I chose that topic, because that was the sort of topic that involved people the most, because obviously that's like, how can we care for people better using food, or how can we interact with people better using food? So yeah, I think it was like almost in hindsight, I realize now why I chose that topic. But in saying that, I think in the whole global mission trip, one of the most amazing things for me was just the amount of networking and people that we got exposed to. So on top of like our program being so diverse, and you know, each of us came from a different background and from a different country, and we had all this like mixing pots of like different people. On top of that, you know, we were able to go on this global mission and meet so many people and like making impactful and innovative decisions around the world. Like, and you got to learn from them and you got to absorb from them. And I think that was like probably one of my biggest takeaways from that whole trip, was just like the number of people that we encountered and that were like willing to share knowledge with us. And yeah, I think, I can't remember who shared it with us in our program, but I remember them saying that like people will always talk to you if you say to them that you're a student. And so that was what was like, I think I carry that with me now. Like, yeah, I think like people are willing to answer questions and help you out if you ask them. And so like that was something for me that was so amazing about that global mission, because there were parts where we kind of had to go out by ourselves and like find people that we wanted to meet with, and you know, organize meetings, and people were so willing to like say, yes, I'll have a conversation with you. And yeah, I thought that was really amazing. I mean, just to think about, I often think about all the amazing innovative companies that we had access to, like going to like Google in San Francisco, and you know, like meeting all these innovative companies that are doing amazing things in the world, and we were able to speak to these people. It's amazing.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think that was one of the moments in my life when I also learned that there are people who are making change and they are willing to share so other people can replicate similar solutions somewhere else, because
Yeah,
it's not about always being completely unique, because there might be already a solution somewhere else. And if this knowledge is shared, then you don't do double work, and
yeah,
you actually like make something more sustainable and solve
yeah,
a problem maybe in your local context. So yeah, definitely it was a life-changing experience. I don't even know if I can use any other word for this. If you think about your studies before, because the two, as you mentioned, were really like very close to each other time-wise. What do you think is the major difference between the studies what you had in food
yeah,
science in Stellenbosch and then what we had with Future Food? What do you
yeah,
think how your life could be if
yeah,
you would have stayed there and pursue that path given?
yeah, sure. Oh, I think back and I just think my worst nightmare would be to be stuck in a lab somewhere, like all isolated by myself, like not being able to talk to anyone and interact with anyone. That would have been, you know, like something that could have very possibly been my future. Yeah, I think like because of my scientific background, we were like very, you know, we had a very clear cut direction that we were going to go into. Like we were going to go and work in like a factory that was kind of like on the outskirts of the city, in a very like production centered way. And yeah, kind of like working odd hours and, you know, like just doing like the grimy work. And I think in my head, that wasn't what I imagined. I just wanted to work with people all the time. And yeah, like I just kept thinking, I don't want to be stuck in a lab. Like I don't want to be stuck in a lab on the weekend. Like I want to be talking to people and learning from people. And this isn't what I pictured. And so, yeah, from going from that, which was like very scientific and very like, obviously like chemistry and biochemistry, and it was just like so much lab work, to going to like an environment where literally every day we were interacting with new people and learning new things from like learning from chefs, or learning from like digital innovators, to learning from even on my classmates, like, you know, we had a lawyer in our class, like learning from him, and it was just it was amazing. So yeah, I think, I don't know if that answers your question, but
Kind
yeah.
of. Do you think so? Because from Murray was the previous person on the live sessions. He talked about his final project when the faculty actually gave a challenge or like an assignment what everyone had to work on and repurpose food waste or
Yeah.
other byproducts in the industry. What was your final project?
Yeah, so we made beer from bread, and it was one of the most stressful times of my life because there was a lot of failures. So there were not a lot of successful batches. Yeah, so we kind of worked on that. But again, like I think for me, the highlight was the people interaction. Like I always keep going back to that. I want a job that I am surrounded by people all the time. And so yeah,
Yeah.
the scientific part was just not ready for me.
I see.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, because that's rather my personal interest. So sorry for the audience, but I will ask this question a bit like selfish. Why didn't you have so many successful batches in that beer production? Is that because the whole like idea is not really scalable or feasible, or you just had some other issues with the product?
So it was like kind of like there was no like recipe as such, so it was a lot of experimenting. So usually with beer, you know, you have a set amount of like wheat and barley and things like that, and you can follow a recipe. With brewing with bread, it was slightly different because we didn't know the exact like quantity. So there was a lot of like estimating and going, okay, like if we use this much white bread to this much brown bread, and then after we figured out that balance, then we had to go, okay, now how much hops are we going to add? And then you experiment with that part. And then after that, you experiment with the amount of water that you're putting in, or the amount of time that you're fermenting it from. So like you can't change too many variables at the same time. So every time, and I mean, a batch of beer takes 2 weeks to like ferment. So I mean, it's like a lot of work and little reward and a long time to wait.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But see, this is exactly a great example for what we said with innovation already happening somewhere else, because we do know that there are companies who already came up with such products. So they must have a recipe which is feasible. And I know it was your university assignment, so something different. But if I in Hungary would like to save bread now, then I hope that I could get the recipe and not spend the exact same time on this trial and error system and launch that in the future. But yeah, these are just ideas. So after we graduated in December 2018, you went back to South Africa. I remember you had maybe plans to go to the UK or have like gain other experiences in other programs, but you stayed and you took a different path. So can you please tell me a bit more about the life of a business analyst?
I can. So yeah, so I think what was kind of most influential for me in terms of making that mind shift was as part of our master's program, we kind of had, so we learned, I don't know if Julia's spoken about this in other videos, but we were taught like this design thinking methodology. And as part of like our masters, towards the end of the year, we had to go into sort of a company and sort of do an embedded project with them. And Julia was actually on my team, so she knows exactly what I'm talking about. So yeah, we were in an Italian company called Camps, and they sort of did catering, but like on a very big scale. So for schools and for workplaces and things like that. And yeah, so we were busy doing this design thinking project. And as we were doing it, I really enjoyed the process. And we ended up like coming up with a solution that was maybe a bit more like technology based. And it had like a bit of like, you know, we proposed like a software solution almost. And like, as we were going through this process, I was like, I really enjoy this. Like, I really enjoy doing this. Like, I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy like thinking about how, you know, like technology and software can like improve the food system. Like, this is really cool. And at the time, I didn't know that there was a job that was actually called that. And so I actually came back to South Africa and I was like, okay, I don't really know what to do. And so I took about 2 months to like just like gather my thoughts and kind of like I felt like I hadn't really stopped since I started studying. And in that time, I actually was chatting to a friend, and I was telling her about like, you know, I really don't know what to do, and I enjoy doing this and this, and you know, I enjoy talking to people and figuring out this, and she actually said, well, that sounds kind of like a business analyst. And so after that, I went and did some research. And yeah, I came across this job and I was like, oh my word, this is like the job for me. And so I did a short course in business analysis and managed to get an internship with an amazing company in Cape Town. And yeah, they were very willing to take on a novice like me. And yeah, so joined them. And now yeah, I'm working for them. I've been working for them for just over a year. I love my job. Basically, it involves going into companies and seeing how we can optimize and what's the word? Optimize, prioritize. No. What's another word for optimize? I don't know. Like whatever, you guys know what I'm talking about. Just to like simplify processes and optimize processes, and that might not look like a software solution. It may look like changing a process in a business. And so yeah, so that's kind of my job. And what's really great is that I get to incorporate lots of my design thinking like research skills into my job. So it involves a lot of like empathy and putting yourself in the user's position. Like, how can we make the user experience of the software or of this process that someone is experiencing in the workplace better? So I go and sit down with users in a business and I tell them, tell me about your day. Tell me about like what struggles you have. Tell me about what frustrates you about the way that you're working at the moment. And then we get to chat about it. We get to come up with solutions, and then we get to do like rapid prototyping, which is also something that we do in design thinking. In software, it looks a little bit different. So if we do something called wireframing. So it's basically like very basic like screens and designs of like software systems.
Mock-ups.
So yeah, markups. Yeah. So we get to do that. And so yeah, that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. But what's really great is that my design thinking background enabled me to like look at my job in a different way. And I've actually, yeah, I was planning to do a workshop for design thinking, and then COVID had other plans. But yeah, so hopefully it's still on the cards when everything seems to settle again. So yeah.
Yes. That sounds very interesting. And what kind of companies are in the portfolio what you are working with?
Yeah. So that's what's also so amazing about where I am at the moment, is that I'm still connected to the food industry. So one of our clients is Tesco in the UK, and another one of our clients is actually the Spur Group in South Africa. And they are kind of a restaurant chain group. They have about 600 restaurants. And while I might not be directly involved in bringing innovation in like their restaurants or in their food, I believe that I'm still contributing towards the food industry because I'm providing innovative solutions to their restaurants in the form of software. And so, yeah, I think it's really exciting for me that I still get to be connected to them. Yeah, and I think it's exciting that, like, you know, sometimes I feel like South Africa is a little bit behind in terms of like technology. And yeah, I think it's exciting to be part of that movement here, and, you know, contribute something positive. So yeah.
That's great. Actually, about the interviews, what you mentioned with the users, it just reminded me that the very first design thinking exercise we did, we had to interview each other having breakfast. Exactly.
Yeah. And it's funny that you say that, actually, because one of the other things that I meant to mention about the global mission and that I use today is that I'm sure so many of our classmates can agree, but we were just thrown into the deep end and we were like, okay, now you're going to give a speech in front of like 50 people, or okay, now you're going to go and give a speech on that stage over there, like in front of 100 people, and good luck, like enjoy it. And so, yeah, I think that gave me like the confidence, and yeah, like I'm very comfortable with speaking in front of people now. I don't feel as intimidated because I feel like I was like thrown in the deep end. So like anything other than that is like actually fine now. And I think those were like really great life lessons that I learned as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of seek for more of these public speeches since then. It's so nice. You are so high on adrenaline and everything. But yeah, well, let's hope so. Now I have these Insta Live sessions to do public speeches.
Yes.
Regarding the past few months, because well, every country, every location experienced the pandemic on a bit different way, and I hope I'm not giving a spoiler from your answer, but I saw one of your posts about doing your garden at home. So I wanted to ask how your food consumption and procurement changed over the last few weeks.
Yeah. So what's so exciting about South Africa is that we actually, like, there's so many little small scale businesses that are actually like popping up. And I think that's really exciting. So just up the road from me, I'd say about 10 or 15 minutes away, we are like surrounded by wine farms and like farmlands. And there's like a little farm just up the road that's actually started like small scale farming, and you can go there and you can get like fresh veggies and organic veggies. And I know like quite a couple of my friends actually go there and they get like their fresh veggies there. And okay, it's a little bit of an escape, you know, like going out of the house when you're not really allowed to. We go and get vegetables. But but other than that, like, it's just really cool to see like little businesses popping up and doing like, you know, like organic grown vegetables that are from South Africa and like, you know, grown in South Africa. Other than that, yeah, I've started growing my own veggie garden, which is turned out to be quite a challenge. I go and speak to them. I speak positively to them every morning. Sometimes my family look at me like I'm a bit crazy, but I do go and tell them that they should grow nicely. Yeah, so we are busy doing a little veggie garden, which has been very exciting. Other than that, I think my food, like in terms of after the global mission, yeah, I think I also just became like very aware of waste and like buying locally. I felt very inspired in Europe actually, because there's such a huge emphasis on recycling in Europe. So like everyone's got their like separate bins, and you know, there's like an organic compost bin, and you know, like a everyday like everything waste bin and a recycling bin. And like, I don't know if everyone knows, but South Africa actually isn't that established in recycling. And slowly, like in the last 2 years, we've actually started picking it up again. And so even at home, we now have like dedicated bins for each of our things, and we have a little compost in our garden, which is really cool. Nice. And like some of our like government municipalities have actually started rolling out like these like composters and dropping them off at some houses. And we have like a pickup truck that comes and picks us up recycling now. So yeah, it's exciting. I think we are getting there slowly. We are a little bit behind, but we are getting there slowly, which is exciting.
Yes. And I mean, if we look at the past few weeks, I think we can actually saw smaller businesses especially pivot so quickly because they needed to survive, so they needed to find another way how to stay in business. So I think there were definitely a lot of learnings, what we should not forget once we can move again freely. And we are approaching the end of our conversation. So I always have a final question for every conversation partner. And despite the fact that you are not directly in the food industry right now, I think every one of us has at least one connection to food, and that's consumption. Therefore, I think everyone can vote with their forks. So if you could describe in one sentence the preferred food future you have, it can be utopistic. How would that look like?
I think for each country to be self-sustaining in terms of like food and in terms of products, because like one of the things that really like hurt my feelings when I was in Europe was that like, and I know for a fact that like South Africa, we send so much of our food to Europe and, you know, like to the north, and we have such good produce, and, you know, everyone's capable of doing that, and it would just be so much more, so amazing, let's say so amazing, if all of our like supply chains were shortened and each country was self-sustaining in terms of food. And, you know, like I just think about like in South Africa, there's so many people who go hungry every day. And, you know, like if we were able to like, you know, just provide for our people, what kind of situation would we be in? And so, yeah, I think that would be my dream, that each country would be able to be self-sustaining, and so that everyone would be full and, you know, able to like get food and provide for their families based on what is available in our countries.
Yeah, sounds very good. Thank you so much for your time, Ashleigh. It was very inspiring with all the career changes over the past few years. For the audience, thank you for being with us. If you dialed in a bit later, then the conversation will be available on IGTV afterwards. And please join us on Thursday morning. So these conversations happen twice a week, as I mentioned, once in the evening, once in the morning, to be able to cover the different time zones of the people all around the world from our ecosystem. And then what I should not forget to say, don't forget to sign up for the digital bootcamp. So if you want to be featured on one of these conversations in the future, then become an alumni. And that's the best way, is through joining one of the educational programs.
Yeah.
Ashleigh, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And talk soon.
Yes, have a good evening. Bye, guys.
Bye.